I used to panic just ordering coffee. Couldn't say hello without my throat locking up. But last week I walked onto a stage, 10,000 people in the audience, and shared my story. They stood up, they clapped, they listened, and I didn't stutter once. Here's how that happened. I was 8 years old the first time I realized my voice was different. We were reading aloud in class. My turn came. The sentence was simple. The fox ran through the woods. Except I never got past th. The other kids started giggling. A girl in the front whispered, "He's broken." The teacher didn't correct her. No one did. From then on, I avoided speaking. I'd fake being sick to skip oral presentations, pretend to forget my lunch so I wouldn't have to talk in the cafeteria line. I started measuring my worth by how quiet I could be. By the time I was in my 20s, I'd mastered invisibility. I became a graphic designer. I could tell stories with color, shapes, fonts. Never words. I worked freelance, from home. Emails instead of meetings. Text messages instead of phone calls. Even when friends invited me out, I declined. Not because I didn't like them, but because every conversation felt like a potential landmine. People think silence is peaceful, but when it's rooted in fear, it's suffocating. At night, I'd sometimes rehearse fake conversations in my head, just to remember what it felt like to be heard. One night, scrolling through YouTube, I watched a TED Talk by a man who stuttered worse than me. He stood in front of thousands and owned his voice, not perfectly, but powerfully. At the end, he said something I'll never forget. My voice might shake, but it still matters. That night, I cried. Not because I was sad, because for the first time, I realized I wasn't alone. That next morning, I Googled public speaking for introverts, found a 6-week online workshop, no cameras, just audio practice. I signed up, then hovered over the confirm payment button for an hour before clicking it. The first day, the assignment was simple. Record yourself reading for 30 seconds. I tried 11 times, deleted them all. On the 12th try, I didn't stutter, but my voice cracked from holding back tears. I wrote in my journal, it wasn't perfect, but I did it. I heard my own voice. Day by day, I kept going. Sometimes I read poetry. Other days, I just talked about my morning. There were relapses, meltdowns, but also progress. Over 3 months, I spoke out loud more than I had in the previous 10 years. One evening, I stitched together clips of me talking, nothing fancy. Just my voice over soft music, telling my story. I called it Finding My Voice, Even If It Cracks. I uploaded it to YouTube. No expectations, no face shown. I nearly deleted it the next day. But then, the comments came. I cried watching this. This feels like you were speaking my thoughts. I didn't know anyone else felt this way. I stared at the screen, overwhelmed. 500,000 views. And for once, I wasn't invisible. Hey, if this story resonates with you, hit that subscribe button. Let's build a space where quiet voices get heard too. 2 weeks later, an email arrived from a youth organization. They hosted a national summit for students, activists, and changemakers. They wrote, "We'd love for you to speak at our event. Your story is powerful. We believe your voice can move the room." My first instinct? Delete. My second instinct? Cry. Then I read the last line. "We know you're not a professional speaker. That's exactly why this matters." That night, I lay awake for hours. I imagined walking up to a podium and freezing, passing out, humiliating myself. But then I imagined something else. Me, speaking, and someone in the audience finally believing they weren't broken. I wrote the speech over 2 weeks, practiced it to my plants, to my dog, in the shower, in my dreams. I recorded 37 versions. Only one made it through without a stumble. My therapist reminded me, they're not there to judge your rhythm. They're there for your truth. I packed a printed copy of my speech in my pocket the day of the event, just in case I blacked out. Before stepping on stage, I whispered, This is for 8-year-old Ben, the one who never got to finish his sentence. They called my name, applause, bright lights, a sea of eyes. I felt the panic rising, but I took one deep breath. Then I smiled. I'm not a speaker, I began. In fact, for most of my life, I've been terrified of moments exactly like this. And just like that, every fear I'd ever had stood next to me, not in front of me. I talked, slowly, honestly, about fear, about hiding, about learning to be okay with not sounding perfect. When I ended, the room stood up. They clapped, some cried, but the best moment came after. These days, I still prefer quiet cafes over parties. I still rehearse what I'll say before a phone call. But now, I don't let fear mute me. I've learned that even a trembling voice can move hearts. That courage isn't the absence of fear. It's making room for fear and speaking anyway. And I've learned that you don't need to be loud to lead. You just need to be real.